good. The fool flew all the way up here in a blizzard.
Harry, how about your banquet in New York?
Oh, I left right in the middle of it. As soon as I got Mary's telegram. Good idea, Ernie. A toast. To my big brother, George, the richest man in town.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Heroic Purgatory, an Asian cinema podcast. This is a special episode because it's not, we're not really discussing any particular Asian films like we've done so far in this season, but we're just kind of having fun with it and doing a so-called Christmas special where I think what we're doing is we're just going to talk about what our favorite Christmas movies are. And maybe, offer you some recommendations in case you're looking for the perfect film to watch this Christmas. But first of all, how are you doing, Jason?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Busy with Christmas shopping and haven't been back to work since the start of this month due to another lockdown. Due to the museum closing. So.
Yeah, so are you by yourself, or are you maybe going back to your family? What's your Christmas routine?
So I'll be going back to family and spending time with them and watching films, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, same here. My work is not impacted per se, but I'm not going home or anything. I don't usually go home for Christmas. At least I haven't gone lately. So it's going to be mostly me and maybe a couple of friends. We'll see how that goes. All right. So what we'll do before we actually start, our discussion of Christmas movies, we'll go through the usual segments of our podcast. And the first one is what we've been watching or what we've been doing since last time we spoke. So why don't you start, Jason, and tell us how your last 2 weeks have been?
So the last 2 weeks have been spent watching a lot of films and playing Front Mission 3, which I actually finished on Tuesday this week. So I put in like 72 hours into that game, and I probably could have used it more productively, but that was over the course of about 6 months.
Yeah. And
so it's like an hour every morning since I wake up at like 5. And
oh boy.
Yeah.
Are you an early bird, or is it just recently that you've been wake up so early?
Early bird. Like my first part-time job was as a cleaner, and so like once you get into that routine, you don't really get out of it, I find.
Okay, so I'm curious, what time do you usually go to bed at night?
I go to bed at around 10.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So yeah, the routine is usually to try and finish the day by having an hour of reading a book. But I replaced it with Front Mission 3, and I have to say I enjoyed the game tremendously. So if you're looking for a strategy role-playing game with international conflict between big power blocks of Europe, North America, Russia, China, and Japan as well, yeah, that's the one for you because you've got robots, you've got people piloting robots in different countries, taking part in wars and special ops missions. It's turn-based strategy, and there's a lot of customization of robots, and yeah, it's fun.
I wonder, have you played Xenogears?
I have. I completed that one earlier this year.
Okay, is it like that? Because that's also an RPG, like a Japanese RPG with, if I remember correctly, has like a mecha component to it?
Yes. It's a sci-fi RPG, whereas Front Mission 3 is more of a real robot type of thing, like Patlabor. Xenogears is set in the far, far, far future on another planet, and it's a turn-based role-playing game. There's no movement involved in the combat, but there is an overworld screen and different hub areas which you can travel around. That was the story I put about 60 hours into, and the story's a bit of a mess. It's legendary because like the production of the game went way over budget, and Square Enix needed to rein it in, so they asked the director to cut content, and he effectively turned it into sort of a visual novel for the second half of the game.
Yeah, so that's what I remember, but I remember being this again. I've played this game many years ago, so forgive me if I get some of the facts wrong. But I do remember that the second part was significantly different. Like the second disc, I think it was only a 2-disc game.
Yeah, the second one's full-blown sci-fi with genetic mutations and like giant space battles and so forth, and it goes really dark with genocide and eugenics. A lot of the world is contracted to a few hub areas, contracted to like a few characters, and it gets smaller and smaller as you go through the game. It's massively melodramatic, but it's still an enjoyable time.
That's what I was going to say, because you mentioned the story was kind of a mess. I remember that it was, the gameplay changed significantly in the second disc, but I still remember being impressed and really enjoying the story of that game.
The first disc, it seems like a typical sort of Clash of Empires type of thing, and then like the storyline and the themes expand greatly, and there's so much text to go through, and it's packed full of psychology, religion, and also science and politics. Like in terms of it being a mess, like compared to the first disc where you get a lot of gameplay, you get a lot of exploration, the second disc restricts you a lot more.
Yeah, I think that was probably intended to be stretched out over 3 or maybe even 4 discs. So that probably hurt the pacing, or just the way you consume this. You're meant to consume the story.
Yeah. As previously mentioned, it was over budget, and I think it came out around the same time as Final Fantasy VII. And so,
okay, was it? I thought it was a little later, but yeah, it was definitely late 90s, somewhere around time.
Or at the very least, it was being produced at the same time. But its scope is epic. So if you want an epic sci-fi tale, then this is the one. This is the one for you. Yeah, you should revisit it. I think it's still available to download on the PlayStation Vita store online. Definitely in the US. I'm not sure about the UK, but definitely the US.
I don't have a PlayStation Vita, but I played this game way back in the original PlayStation, and I remember this along with Final Fantasy IX, which is the best Final Fantasy, by the way. I remember I had these two games, or I think I got Xenogears a little after, but anyway, I had a bunch. There was just 3 or 4 games that I was playing on the original PlayStation 1. And of course the PlayStation 2 had already arrived, so I was a little bit outdated in my gaming gear, and I remember my PlayStation 1 broke, so that's around the time that I discovered emulators, and I think I finished Final Fantasy IX, and I played this game with emulators, so that was my introduction. That's why I remember it so well, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, I specifically bought a PlayStation Vita to play RPGs from this time period. Just having the ability to download some of the games that I missed and have them in one convenient place was fantastic.
Yeah, that's why I had a PS3 actually, to play all these old games. And then I was very disappointed to find out, and it's one of the reasons why I never got a PS4 is because you could buy like these classics that I think they called on the PlayStation Network, but then if you got to PS4, if you upgraded to PS4, even though you would have kept the same PlayStation Network account, these games would no longer work on the PS4, and that was massively disappointing for me, and that's why I never got a PS4. At least I don't know if they eventually changed that throughout the lifetime of PS4, but at least around the time that it came out, this was not an option. So that was very disappointing for me.
Yeah, like backwards compatibility is still a massive thing for the game community. People are anxious about the PlayStation 5 having backwards compatibility, and it does have the the ability to play PlayStation 4 games, but I don't think it has the ability to play any of the older classic games.
You're talking about 5 now.
Yeah, PlayStation 5.
Yeah, I think I've heard something along those lines.
And now you are restricted to buying classic games for a particular console. So if you've got a PlayStation Vita, you can access the PlayStation Vita store. If you have a PlayStation 4, you can access PlayStation 4 store, and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any of those, but I do have a Switch, and a lot of these games are also being, I guess, a Square and Nintendo are bearing the hatchet. So a lot of these classic, at least Square RPGs, like the Mana series and all the older Final Fantasy are coming out for the Switch. I've only bought a few of them, and I think I mentioned this a few episodes ago, and I still haven't progressed much. That I bought the Final Fantasy VII for the Switch, and I just God, I find that game so boring, especially the first disc up to the part where, like, spoiler alert, a major character dies. Then it starts to pick up, and I've never progressed much but just that getting through that first part is just, I find it so boring and so badly paced. It's very hard for me to get through it.
Do you find that, like, having played modern games now, that it's harder to go back to older games?
Well, that's the thing. I've mentioned this before. I'm not much of a gamer, so my experience with modern games is extremely minimal. Like, I've mostly played older games, and even the games that I play now occasionally are usually older games. Like, as a fun fact, and I'm sorry we're kind of derailing the conversation. I'll let you back to your list. But yesterday I looked up at my GOG. I don't know if you know what that is. Good old games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at my library and I found that at some point I had purchased an Eye of the Beholder bundle. There are a bunch of games from the late 80s or early 90s, and I started playing one of them. I didn't get very far, and it is a bit dated by modern standards. Even someone like me who doesn't play many modern games realized that. But I don't know, I enjoyed it, and I was, I have GTA 5 in my computer, and I had Eye of the Beholder, and I chose to play Eye of the Beholder just because that's kind of the kind of game that I gravitate towards.
Yeah, I don't know if it's age, but I find myself more nostalgic for games of the past, like the Monkey Island series, and also these RPGs, which is specifically why I got the Vita. But I tried going back to Fallout 1, and I found it really slow going. Tough time.
Well, it's funny. Well, you mentioned a couple of things that I just want to jump into. First of the Fallout one, I kind of felt the same way with you, although, to be fair, I didn't give it much of a chance. But I think if I kind of like maybe powered through the beginning, I would get used to it, because even though I didn't find I only played it a few minutes, but I didn't find it as compelling. The same people that kind of made Fallout and then Fallout 2 were involved in one of my favorite game series, and that is the Baldur's Gate game series.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I love those two games. I've played Baldur's Gate 2 multiple times, and I think the first Fallout, I think it was a different team, but some of the Baldur's Gate team was involved. I'm not sure how they were more involved in Fallout 2, I think, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but it uses the same engine, I think, the same game engine.
Yeah.
So like, I think if I just, persisted a little bit more, I think I would eventually get into Fallout. And so that was my comment number one. The other thing is, you mentioned the Monkey Island game. That's another thing that I probably play the most is point and click adventure games.
Yeah.
A lot of I'm not that huge into the Monkey Island games. I've only played the first one. I find the humor style is not kind of I appreciate that how they have approached the games, but I don't find it that funny. And I also find the engine that they use, the Scum engine, where you pick the verbs of what you want to do, I find it a little bit too outdated, even for me. But otherwise, I love point and click games, like especially the ones released by Revolution Software.
Oh, Broken Sword and Beneath the Steel Sky.
Beneath the Steel Sky, and I finished their sequel. I essentially got it on day one that it came out, the Beyond the Steel Sky.
Yeah, how was that?
It was pretty good. I don't think it's as good as the first one, but again, could be could just be my nostalgia glasses. I'm fully aware of that. I think a lot of people would agree that it's not as great. I think the original one was a real kind of tour de force in independent game development. Quote unquote independent, because it sort of fits into that category. But again, I think the aesthetic and, considering the limitation of the technology that they were developing it for, and the soundtrack, that was a fun fact, was composed by one of the programmers. They didn't have a dedicated composer for that original game, and it's pretty memorable.
Yeah.
I just think the original Beneath a Steel Sky is a little better, but I did enjoy Beyond a Steel Sky, and I would wholeheartedly recommend it. And the Broken Sword series, of course, is fantastic. I think maybe the fourth one was the one the most criticized, and I agree, but I think they've stayed consistently good over the years, and the last one was pretty good too. In fact, I enjoyed the last one maybe the most, even though people argue that the first one is the best. Still, they're all pretty good.
The last one is actually on PlayStation 4.
Oh, is it? I don't know. The idea of playing a point and click game on a console seems very, very strange to me. I mean, it's in the name. It's point and click. How can you do that without a mouse?
You're talking to someone who played Broken Sword on Game Boy Advance.
Which one?
The first one.
Oh, okay. I think you're talking about the remake, because the original was not on a Game Boy.
Oh no, I still have the first two, which are PC CD-ROMs. I also got Broken Sword on a handheld console, which I think was the Game Boy Advance. So I played it with like the cursor and the A/B buttons.
Okay. I mean, I can imagine that I don't know. I did have Broken Sword 3 on an Xbox, on the original Xbox. And I mean, it wasn't too terrible. I think they had done a good job at porting it, but then I replayed it on a PC a couple of years later, and I think the PC experience was much more enjoyable.
Okay. Just to go back to Fallout, if you enjoy the first game, it might be worth checking out the Wasteland series, because Brian Fargo, the guy, well, like sort of like the brains behind the Fallout series, the first two games at least, he and some of the people who worked on those games started the Wasteland series, and it's in a similar vein, like post-apocalyptic America, lots of Americana, although like the latest one is heavily inspired by the Reagan era.
Yeah, I mean, I'll check it out. I'm assuming this is a relatively recent series?
Yeah, it's on Good Old Games. There are 3 games so far, and the latest one came out a couple of months ago.
And is it also an RPG, or is it more like a first-person shooter like the later Fallout games?
Right, it's an RPG in the style of the original Fallout.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I'll definitely check them out. Christmas time is coming. I'm probably going to have a little bit more time to play games, hopefully.
Yeah, if you go on Good Old Games, you might be able to find the first Wasteland going for free. They occasionally put it on sale for like $0.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna check that, because I know both Steam and Good Old Games have deals around now, the holiday, so that'd be something interesting to check out.
Yeah, and there's another point-and-click adventure where you play a cop. I can't remember what it's called, but I've been. It's got excellent reviews. I've been really interested in it for a long time. Okay, with deviating.
Is it the Blackwell series?
Not the Blackwell series.
Is it the Gemini Rue? Gemini Rue? Something like that?
No, it's you play a cop and.
Is it Police Quest? Like, is it an old series?
Oh, no, it's not that old. It's relatively recent, like 2 years old, or 1 year old. It's got quite a few awards. I'm checking my Good Old Games email right now, looking for the details.
Again, like I mentioned at the beginning, this is the Christmas episode, so we have no structure. We'll just kind of wander like that for the entire episode. So I apologize in advance to our listeners.
Disco Elysium.
Oh, I haven't played it, but I know of that. Let me. I just brought up my Steam library to see if I have it. I'm definitely aware of that. But yeah, have you played it?
I have not played it. I keep wanting to download it. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I've played Wasteland 1, which is really enjoyable. So I can recommend that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy these point and click ones, but the one downside is, I think the last one that I played was the original Gabriel Knight Sins of the Fathers game.
Ah, okay.
But the downside of these ones is that they tend to be pretty short. And they're, sometimes the gameplay is so minimal that they are kind of, to use a phrase that you mentioned earlier, like a visual novel or an interactive movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I was watching a Darkseid playthrough, an Amiga game, and you get to click on a few items and then carry on to the next screen.
Yeah, one like an atrocious example of that is not exactly a point and click, but it's kind of like a point and click. Is a game called To the Moon.
I've heard of it. I haven't played it.
It's a recent one, and the visual aesthetic is it's intentionally made to resemble the old NES and SNES RPGs. So the little characters and like kind of semi 2D, 3D perspective.
Yeah,
essentially like an old Final Fantasy game or an old Chrono Trigger or whatever. But so again, the gameplay is a joke. There's hardly any in it, but the story is so phenomenal. I challenge anyone to play that game without shedding a few tears, because it's such a great story.
Okay, well, if anybody accepts that challenge, please let us know.
Yeah, so it's To the Moon, and it's an indie game, so you can probably find it for very cheap.
Okay, so enough about video games, I suppose.
Yeah, to what? So you finished Front Mission 3 this week. What else? Or recently? What else?
I have not played any video games since then. I made a solemn pledge that I would see out the rest of this year by reading books and practicing Japanese. So that's like 72 hours on a game. Whenever I see big numbers like that, I always feel big regret. But I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the game, and so I shouldn't have any regrets. Right. So in terms of what I've been reading, I went back to the Summer of Abume. I've been practicing Japanese, and I've been watching a lot of films. Oh, my review for Kiyoshi Kurosawa's To the Ends of the Earth was published last week.
I saw that.
Yeah. It's a great film, travelogue / character study, with a phenomenal performance by Atsuko Maeda. So if you have the chance to watch the film, it's 2 hours long. I can imagine some audience members feel like it's meandering, but it has a point. You're watching this central character develop over the course of the film, and it has some barnstorming musical numbers. Other films I watched, The Thing from Another Planet, which is on BBC iPlayer. Specifically for this podcast, as you'll find out later on. And a lot of the films from the Christmas list. I'm trying to think if I...
So let's keep them. Let's not kind of reveal them all right now. We'll keep them for when we actually do that segment.
Yeah. And I've been watching lots of new Japanese films, some from major studios, some from independent filmmakers. And I've watched... this is in preparation for next year. I don't know how much I can say at this stage about what is in preparation for, but I've also watched some classic Japanese films as well. Let's see, what was it called? Gan, or The Mistress. And I rewatched that after watching it earlier this year. A really moving tale about a lower class woman who's tricked into marrying a moneylender and finds she's trapped in a horrible relationship. And that was sort of my 2 weeks, apart from like going out doing Christmas shopping and visiting relatives.
Yeah, that seems like an exciting couple of weeks that you've and I'm sure, given the holidays, you'll get to watch and read a lot more.
Yeah, I've got quite a few Japanese movies lined up, and I've been holding them back for too long now. So I'm going to spend quite a few days trying to whittle down the list.
Okay. So I'm gonna go quickly through mine. I finally watched a Train to Busan. I mentioned many episodes ago that I still hadn't seen that, and I finally a few days ago I decided. I said, you know what, I have to finally watch it. And just to give my opinion in short is that I enjoyed the film, but I was not blown away by it. I don't know why my expectations had been rated so high, because it's been all over the media, and it got a lot of attention when it came out, and it got a lot of attention from especially the Asian, like the circle of Asian website that I tend to frequent. And I don't have much negative to say for it, but I don't know. I found it a very well done but relatively ordinary zombie film.
Okay. I like the concept of like zombies being blind in the dark and tracking people through sound and being stuck in close confines was actually quite well deployed in the film.
Absolutely, but I don't think it's novel. I think other media has taken advantage of that. I'm sorry, I can't. Maybe I'm being because I can't think of any off the top of my head. But I would find it hard to believe that was novel to this film.
No, I think I've seen the concepts come around in different media, such as The Last of Us. I believe the zombies there are blind and hunt by sound. And they're also runners like 28 Days Later.
Which is another thing that maybe kind of went towards diminishing the movie a little bit, because I'm very much in the camp of slow zombies. Of course, I mean, it doesn't matter. The writers can write their zombies however they want. But if I had to choose what my favorite kind of zombies are, I'm very much in the camp of zombies should be slow instead of zombies can be fast and agile and can do remarkable things that the human bodies that they possess would not be able to do. But that's somewhat of a different point.
Yeah, it's like the best zombie movie in recent years, I would have to say, is I Am a Hero, a Japanese movie, which is based on a manga, and that features slow zombies. So if you get the chance, please check it out and let us know what you think.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I agree with you. Whatever the concepts that it played with, it employed them very well, very competently. So I don't have anything to point out as a flaw. I just found it relatively straightforward, for lack of a better term, and a competent film, but it didn't blow my mind. And maybe that was just a matter of expectation. Maybe my expectation for the film was raised to such a level that it kind of colored my view of it.
Yeah, sometimes a film can just be well made.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think Train to Busan definitely meets that criterion.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've also been on a little bit of a political bend. So I've watched a few political films like Hotel Rwanda. I hadn't seen that with Don Cheadle.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the recent Netflix film, The Trial of the Chicago 7, directed by
Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah, that's right, the famous screenwriter. Very well done. I recommend the film. I thought it was great. And I also watched Frost Nixon, which I enjoyed the film, but I think it took some liberties with the material as to kind of enhance the drama that I kind of annoyed me a little bit. But I guess every biopic has to do that to a certain extent.
Just to make a film that would just be an interview sort of more cinematic, is it?
Exactly, yeah. Like, I think the original Frost Nixon interviews were that didn't happen, where Nixon dragged through the first 3 interviews and then only revealed everything in the final interview. I think like the interview was very interesting and very revelative from the beginning, but in the film they kind of build up to that. So like they show the interviews initially being as boring and very very bad for the what's his name, David Frost.
Frost, yeah.
But again, it's understandable. It's just like what was the other film with the three women that did the math to send the rocket to the moon.
Hidden Figures.
Hidden Figures. Great film, very enjoyable, great acting, wildly inaccurate and wildly false in terms of what really happened and how it depicts the events. And it's something that I feel needs to be pointed out, but not necessarily something that diminishes the value of the film.
Yeah.
Okay. And I started watching a new series that I've been enjoying very much, and that is Utopia, the 2013-2014 British series.
Okay, so not the Amazon remake.
No, I watched the first episode of the Amazon remake, and I didn't like it that much. Again, that's only one episode, so who knows? But I kind of then I found out that this is based on a British series, and I checked that out, and I found it much better made. I'm really liking the visual aesthetic of the series. Just stands out so much, and I think it's used so well.
Yeah. I was aware of it at the time, but I never actually watched it.
Okay, it's a sort of an X-Files types of series, but much more R-rated than X-Files.
Okay.
So full of conspiracies about a pharmaceutical company or something like that.
Yeah, like lots of brutal violence from what I've read.
Yeah, although surprisingly, I don't think as much as the Amazon. I think the Amazon one just amps up the violence even more.
Is that like in terms of violence, we're talking like gunplay and explosions, like very American type of thing? Whereas in contrast, is the British one much more simple and brutal, like hammers? And
no. The Amazon one is also brutal and very visceral, very simple with blood and I think if I remember correctly, there's a torture scene in the first episode. I think the American one is a little bit more explicit in that torture scene than the British one.
Okay. It'd be interesting to check the two out.
Yeah, I think I might, although I read somewhere that the American one was canceled. So I don't know if there's any point. I was planning to finish the British one and then go back to finish the American one. But the American one was canceled. Apparently it didn't do so well. So I'm not sure if it's worth going back to it, but I still might. Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's pretty much all I've been doing these couple of weeks. It wasn't as productive as I want to, but I still got to watch a few interesting things.
Cool.
So other than that, we do have. We didn't create a plan for this week, but I do have a couple of news items written down on my personal notes here, and the big one is that as you actually brought this to my attention, Jason, is that South Korean director Kim Ki-duk died yesterday, right?
Yeah, he died in Estonia.
Was it Estonia or Latvia?
Estonia or Latvia. I can't remember, but he had traveled to the country, was it this year or last year? And he was in the process of getting citizenship. It was Latvia. Okay. And he was hoping to film to make a new film there as well when he...
And this is, as of our recording, this was yesterday, correct? Or the day before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was it December? It was December 11th, so we were recording this on December 12th. The news broke yesterday on December 11th.
Okay, yeah. And obviously, I've made it no secret that he's a favorite director of mine, but it's also worth pointing out that he was somewhat of a controversial figure, accused of various charges of assault and sexual harassment of his actresses, and I think he was charged. He was declared guilty for some of them, and then cleared for some of them. Although it's considering his celebrity status, it's hard to. It's somewhat hard to really assess how much of it he may be guilty of. He's certainly guilty of something. And how much of it might just be libel or whatever else you want to call it.
did he not sue the actresses who accused him of defamation, and did he not lose the case?
I know that he sued it. I don't know that the case ever concluded, but yeah, you are right. I don't know if he lost the case, but I do. It made sense that he would lose the case because he's a public figure. But yeah, he did definitely sue at least more than one person for defamation.
Yeah, from what I understand, and I could be wrong because like I'm not in the Korean film industry in any capacity, and I don't have any Korean language skills. But like he was effectively shut out of the Korean. Like he's always been independent of the Korean film industry, and following him, I believe he lost the trial. I'm not 100% sure, but following that, he was shut out of the Korean film industry altogether.
And I think his last film was a Japanese, right?
Yeah, it was inspired by like the Fukushima disaster, I think. Or it it incorporates that into its story, and I don't think it did too well.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why he was in Latvia and trying to make a film there.
No, yeah, like, what more is there to say?
I think just that, it's the thing that I mentioned either last episode or a couple of episodes ago is that, often things and people and situations are complicated. It's never a good idea to either idolize someone or try to reduce their life into one act or one work of art or anything. People, often have positive sides and negative sides, and sometimes they're both extremely great in magnitude, like it looked like it was the case of Kim Ki-duk, and it's just, like something that is important to keep in mind as we look back and analyze these controversial figures in the world of cinema, that there's plenty of them, certainly, in this field that we are into.
Yeah, it's like the troubled artist, the rebel. We're beginning to reassess a lot of figures, and those reassessments get worked into how we interpret the films. So it's always a good thing to keep an open mind and try to see people as complex.
Exactly, and I think it's important in those reassessment not to reduce people to whatever is the last thing that they do. It's important not to let the bad things that they did negate all the positive things, and also not to let the positive things excuse the bad things that they might have done. We should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, to use a common phrase. Yeah.
Two things can equally be true at the same time.
Yeah, and morality and talent don't often coincide.
Yeah, in the future, like after all these scandals, there'll probably be different approaches to how actors and directors worked, and that will be one positive that can come out of this. Yeah,
that's right. So I absolutely agree. I think we, of course, he's dead now, so there's nothing that can be, but I do believe that there is more to be gained from taking these events and making changes forward, instead of try to think in punitive terms on how do we punish the existing people who have committed wrongdoings, although they certainly should, legally speaking, they should be tried and receive the full consequences of the law that each of them deserve. But I think that's only a minor part of this. I think it's far more important to take all of these that have happened and kind of enact changes moving forward, so that we ensure there is a system there to maybe reduce the likelihood that these happen again.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's all I had to say about Kim Ki-duk's death. I don't know if you had anything else to add.
No, I think that's effectively summed up everything that could be said without actually going into an analysis of any films.
No, and we'll definitely do that at some point in a future episode or a future season of Heroic Purgatory. Like I said, he's one of my favorite filmmakers, and there's definitely not. He's gonna be. His films are gonna be analyzed here. But that was the news that for him that he died, and however he's received in the future, however his acts are judged. I think just a quote. I think he once gave an interview about the animal cruelty in his films, and a few of his films have quite severe animal cruelty. And he did say that I do use animal cruelty, and I know that I will be judged in the next life for it. And I'm sure that probably whatever his belief were about the next life, I'm sure he will be judged for a lot more than his animal cruelty.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Another piece of news that I had, and this pertains to the U.S. I read somewhere, and I don't remember the link, but I'm gonna try to find it. Is that the Kiyoshi Kurosawa film "Wife of the Spy" is going to be released?
Yep.
I in the U.S. I don't know if that's a theatrical or if that's in the sort of a digital cinema format, but I'm gonna try to find that article that I read it, and I'm gonna post the link. But it's something to look out for. You said you still haven't seen this film, right?
No, it came out at the Venice Film Festival earlier this year, and I've only been able to read reviews of it, but all reviews point to a really good film.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to see what format, and if it's not physical, which I don't think you will be, if it's in some sort of digital format, I'm gonna definitely try to get my hands on it.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
Are there any other news that you would like to add to that?
I can't think of any at the moment.
All right. So that was our news segment of the episode. Now we're gonna get into the main part, and that is listing our favorite, or a list of recommended. I don't know if all of them would be favorites, but a list of recommended Christmas films that are either appropriate to watch around Christmas, or they are set on Christmas, or they have something to do with Christmas in general. And we're gonna maybe have we're gonna talk about them just in a reduced capacity because there's a lot of films to get through. So let's start with how did you approach making this list, Jason? Did you just was it easy for you? Did you have a list of Christmas movies in your mind, or did you have to look through it and try to really search through your mind to find something?
I gave myself a simple criteria, which was films either set on Christmas or set during the Christmas period, or films that I always watch on Christmas. And there are a lot to choose from if I take both criteria into account. So things that I have on in the background because they're always broadcast around Christmas time, and also DVDs that I have a special place in my heart that I watched over the Christmas period, the New Year period, and it was hard creating a list because there are so many good Christmas films. There's a lot of it's a massive genre, and I've probably picked some of the highlights that most people who enjoy American films from, say, the 80s, the 90s, and some of the classics, as well as some titles that are out from left field, some Japanese titles that will surprise people.
Yeah, and that's not interesting because I think one or two of them I have not seen, so I'll be interesting to hear your opinion and why it is that you recommend them.
Okay. And what criteria did you have?
So for me, it was a little bit harder because normally Christmas time for me is not something that I deeply associate with films. I don't have a list of obvious Christmas films. So the criteria for me was, I think, a little bit looser. I just listed things that for one reason or another, I associate with Christmas, and some of the reasons are more solid than others for this film, as I'll point out. But yeah, it was harder for me to come up with this list. There's only one film that I watch every Christmas, and that'll be the first one that I'll mention. And then the rest, I kind of had to rack my brain a little bit to find them. Like a lot of these films, that even the ones that are explicitly about Christmas, I have not seen on or around Christmas. Although I might after this recording, just to kind of stick to my principles. We'll see.
Okay.
So now we'll go through the list one by one, and we'll talk a little bit about them. Nothing too long and too to drag it out, but just to give, a reason of why it is that we recommend this and why it is that we associate this film with Christmas. So why don't you give us the first one? And just to clarify, at least for me, these are not ranked in any particular order of preference. These are just 7 or 8 Christmas films and randomly thrown out there. So at least for me, the one that I'm going to mention first and the one that I'm going to mention last are not necessarily in order of preference. They're just in random order.
Yes, it's the same for me. And the ones I'm going to list first are like sort of things I have on in the background, ones that I've grown up watching and sort of appreciating. I may not pay full attention to them all the time, but if they're on television, I'll just have them on in the background. And they like titles like Scrooged with Bill Murray, Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy, and Jamie Lee Curtis. Gremlins and The Nightmare Before Christmas. So like a really heavy American contingent there. Gremlins and The Nightmare Before Christmas, like they're set on Christmas. Like Christmas is a big theme for The Nightmare Before Christmas, and this, like, to me, they represent something that Hollywood doesn't do so much these days. It's like really gothic, even horrific types of movies set on Christmas. Yeah, Gremlins is like it starts off innocently enough with an inventor going to Chinatown and getting this strange creature, and it sort of evolves into this brutal, like even horrific sort of serial killer type of movie where you got these horrible creatures stalking the town. And The Nightmare Before Christmas is a perfect sort of amalgamation of gothic horror and Christmas time. And it's hard to imagine Hollywood making a big stop motion musical like that nowadays.
Yeah, I think the A Nightmare Before Christmas, and I rewatched that recently. I haven't seen Gremlins in a while, but I remember it. Is probably my favorite movie that is explicitly about Christmas. I have it's kind of it's a great film, and it's also, even though it's not directed by Tim Burton, he has he definitely, at least from what I've read, he had a big hand in its making. It's kind of a sad reminder of what Tim Burton used to be and what he became later on. But I agree with you. It is not only hard. It's hard that it was even made in the first place. It's incredibly impressive at how imaginative the film is, and even how much it achieves with its simplicity.
Indeed, I like the different models are just so full of character, and I love and the voice acting matches perfectly. So it's enough to sweep you away into this world where you've got all these like stereotypical images of Christmas and Halloween.
Yeah, and you get 2 for 1. It's a Halloween and a Christmas movie.
Yeah, and it's about a guy trying to discover his true character. So it's brilliant character development. It's
family friendly in a sense, but it's also, it satisfies like a more wacky part of like what you might expect in a it has like a darker component to it, that it's not so dark that it takes away its family friendliness, but it's just satisfies that itch so well.
Yep, there's a lot of peril and some dismemberment.
Yeah. And that scene where he sings in front of the big moon, that's like, I rewatch that scene periodically because it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, like, and although these are fantastical creatures, like, they're very much human as well. You can understand them. Yeah, and that's all I've got to say about it. Like, this is the sort of thing I would have on in the background because it's usually broadcast like every year.
Yeah, I don't want. That's another thing that maybe why made the compilation of this list so hard. But I don't watch that much TV, as in traditional broadcast television, that I can have it on and see what's on. So maybe that's. So I don't know if this even plays in the U.S. I would imagine it does, and I don't know what channel you would find this film.
I think it's easier to catch films as national events in the UK, because we've got although we've got hundreds of different channels, like the BBC and Channel 4 tend to be the ones people gravitate to that do screen these films, and the BBC and Channel 4 offer greater accessibility to audiences, because all you have to do is just pay a license fee. You don't need to pay for a cable subscription or anything like that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, the BBC has some great programming and it has had over the years.
Yeah, and like their online component, they've got quite a good selection of films. In the past, they used to show lots of foreign films, but recently it's mostly American films, and they've got a lot of classics, one of which I mentioned earlier. I'll probably mention it again later on in this discussion.
Okay. So the first film in my list is the only one that I actually do watch almost every Christmas. It's every Christmas Day, and it's not one film; it's a trilogy, and that is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And my connection to Christmas is that I watch it every Christmas, a Christmas Day most of the time, and I watch the extended editions of all the films. So that is pretty much takes the whole day. So that is my personal connection with Christmas, even though there's no explicit connection with it in the story. I know that a lot of people do have that tradition. A lot of people that I know anyway that do watch either the entire trilogy or at least one or two films around Christmas. But I'm pretty sure that the original films did come out on Christmas Day in their respective years.
Okay.
At least in the US. Yeah, I think they all came out every 2001. 2002 and 2003, either on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, somewhere around there. So it's not explicitly a Christmas film, but it is a Christmas film for me, and it is a Christmas film in that sense. And I don't know. I mean, people, a lot of people love this trilogy, and a lot of people like to hate on it. But whatever you think, and it does have a few flaws. I just do think that it is an amazing achievement of filmmaking by Peter Jackson. And it's amazing just to see him develop as a filmmaker and see what he came from, and then kind of like tackle on this trilogy that it looks like you wouldn't tell from his previous films, but when you see this one, it looks like it was the project that he was born to undertake.
Yeah, he started out with splatter films like Bad Taste, and
Meet the Feebles.
Now he's doing CGI epics.
Yeah. And that's another thing about this film. Like by today, there's obviously, this is a sprawling trilogy, 12 hours plus, and it has a lot of CGI. But by today's standards, it doesn't have that much CGI. It mostly relies on makeup and like a really clever location scouting.
Yeah, the fantastic landscape of New Zealand.
Yeah, and the CGI is 20 years old, but it holds up incredibly well.
What I enjoy about the CGI in The Lord of the Rings is it's not overwhelming like you find with a lot of films.
Absolutely. Like you would later do in The Hobbit.
Yeah, like he comes from practical effects, and you still get a sense that practical effects are heavily involved in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like The Lord of the Rings trained him so much that he went to make King Kong. I mean, I enjoyed the film, don't get me wrong, but it is a laughable film in many ways. And, I haven't seen The Lovely Bones, but it seems to me that he just, after he did The Lord of the Rings, he just kind of, that drained the talent out of him, and he's kind of been riding on the coattails of that ever since, I think.
Did he do something like 3 installments of The Hobbit?
Yep, he did 3.
Yeah, it's like, and since then he's also done a documentary, They Shall Never Grow Old, I believe.
That was actually pretty good. I saw that. I forgot about that. Yeah, that was a very interesting. I saw it in 3D. And full disclosure, that was my first and only 3D film that I've seen.
Okay.
Mostly because I'm cheap and I don't want to pay the extra money for a 3D film, and I never saw the appeal. And as far as 3D effects, that was pretty mild, but he did some great work on that. Like the footage of World War I soldiers is phenomenal.
Yeah. So I take it like James Cameron's next 5 installments of the Avatar series not on your watch list?
Well, I mean, I'm probably gonna watch. Well, if he ever makes them, but I'm gonna watch them in regular. I saw Avatar in regular 2D. Like I might watch it in 3D. I'm not against it. Like I said, it's mostly because I don't want to pay the extra $10 for a 3D ticket.
Yeah, I think a lot of the problems with 3D films, it's like, say, for example, with Alice in Wonderland by Tim Burton, it wasn't filmed in 3D to begin with. It was added as a component later on, wasn't it?
I don't know, honestly.
Okay, well, from what I understand, and while the like James Cameron's projects, like Avatar, and there's like a deep sea one, those have been specifically filmed in 3D. He's like researched new technology to pull this off, and I did watch the 3D Avatar in a cinema, and I was really blown away.
Okay. Then I might watch it. Like I understand the technology was remarkable for Avatar. But I don't know. I didn't at the time, at least I didn't think it's worth it. I might reevaluate that opinion when the next Avatar films come out.
So yeah, I think we've got quite a few to go through.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, considering his age and how slow he's been going, if I was a betting man, I would probably bet that we're not going to see all 5 of them. But who knows?
One can only wait and see.
Yeah. All right, so why don't you go down on your list? What's next for you?
So the next one I have is a film by Sion Sono called Love and Peace,
which I have not seen, so I'm going to rely on you to convince me that it is worth checking out.
Okay, so Love and Peace is a film that came out in 2015-16, but it's actually based on a script he wrote like decades earlier. And it's a mashup of genres, like a musical, kaiju eiga, and a love story. And like Sion Sono is like famous for having this operatic style. And with his horror films, it can get a bit tiresome because it feels like you're being shouted at and shown horrific images quite a lot. Whereas with Love and Peace, there's a fun tone. It's ambitious. It's got lots of practical effects, full bodysuits for like some of the monsters, marionettes. It's very colorful, playful, and so having like his style, which is cranked up to 11 at all times, for most of his projects at least, having that style here is perfect. And you've got a character who has a rags to riches story. His name's Rio, and like he's painfully shy guy, wanted to be a rock and roller, didn't have the confidence to do it, quit after 3 shows where nobody came to watch him. He's in love, so at the beginning, sort of unrequited love with a fellow office worker, Yuko Terashima, and he's bullied in the workplace. He's got self-confidence issues. Like the way Sono films it, he puts you right in his headspace, right in Ryo's headspace, where like shame and self-hatred just blossom from every angle. And Hiroki Hasegawa's performance as Ryo is brilliant. Like his body language is so tight and curled and controlled, and like he just reeks embarrassment and fear. And he encounters a guy selling turtles on a rooftop while he's having like a miserable lunch alone. And this turtle he names Picadon becomes his best friend. Unfortunately, due to a series of events, he ends up getting flushed down the toilet, and Picadon encounters a man who could be Santa, and ingests like a magic tablet which can allow him to grant wishes, which is where the film really spirals out of control and becomes like a kaiju eiga rock musical. Maybe I've given too much away, but it's a lot of fun. I don't know if I've convinced anybody, but
so what's the relationship to Christmas?
So it's set over the Christmas period.
Okay.
And Picadon the turtle encounters a guy in sewers who's mending toys, could be Santa. Spoiler alert, turns out it is Santa.
I have to say the poster looks Christmassy. Has that feeling about it.
Well, it's the bright colors, and you've got all the props for Christmas. And
that's true. It has that atmosphere about it, the colorful, the stars, the shine, and all that.
Yeah, and it becomes like in Christmas, it's less about religion and more about like couples dating or kids getting toys, and it's got like the romance between Ryo and Yuko, and it's got like comments on consumerism, as you've got all these toys that have been discarded by people who are getting a second chance, and Ryo himself is searching for a second chance in life. And I actually find like being reborn or having second chance in life is a theme that comes up in a lot of Christmas films, actually.
Absolutely.
So yeah, have I convinced you, or was that too much of a word salad?
Well, you did convince me when you said that he's not. This film is not Sono turned up to 11, because that's my problem with some of his later films. He's kind of fallen so he's relying so much on his trademark style that sometimes movies have no substance except that just his personal touch, which can be a bit too much sometimes.
I think that's definitely the case with his later titles. Like Forest of Love was definitely a retread of things like Cold Fish, Suicide Club, and it just like it felt belabored, and he was treading water.
Yeah, it feels like, and I mean, this is purely speculation on my part, but it does feel like he's gotten to the point where there's nobody there to edit him.
Maybe.
I mean, it has the same effect.
I think, especially with regards to Forest of Love, he was given a budget by Netflix because he's got the international auteur status.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He can go to whatever lengths he wants to. He reins it back in with films like The Whispering Star, which is a black and white kind of minimalist. It's a silent film.
I see.
So if you don't like that sort of like aggressive style of Sono, The Whispering Star might be interesting. But Love and Peace, it has to be noted, was based on a script that he'd written like in the early 90s, I think. So before he became sort of well known as director of Suicide Club.
That's true, and to be, to again try to get in his head a little bit, I don't think Sono was ever a director or a writer, for that matter, who would allow himself to be edited by a studio or whoever else. But and like that's common in a lot of auteurs, or at least directors that are perceived as auteurs. But there's still a chance that someone would evaluate his work and give suggestions, and he would take them. Whereas in his later work, it sounds like he's just given free rein, and he's not in the mood to listen to what anyone else might have to say about his films. And I don't necessarily mind his aggressiveness. Like, for example, in a film like Noriko's Dinner Table, or the 4-hour one that he did,
Love Exposure.
Love Exposure. I mean, those are where he kind of like amps up his style to 11, as you mentioned. But I do think that that's appropriate for those films. Whereas for his later films, it's either not appropriate or it's just a retreading, as you mentioned in the case of The Forest of Love, of just familiar territory.
Yeah, he's definitely his own man, and I think we should be thankful, especially like he has like the bravery to go to different places. And his next film is Prisoners of the Ghostland with Nicolas Cage, and some images were released yesterday, so I'm looking forward to seeing how Sono's style and Nicolas Cage's acting meld together.
It might just break the screen or break the cameras.
Absolutely. I'm definitely going to be there day one at the cinema.
Yeah, well, hopefully it does get a cinema release and not a video release, but we'll see how it goes.
We could be banking on sort of Nicolas Cage's cachet, cultural cachet. to get at the very least a limited theatrical run.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely possible. All right. So the next one that I have is a film that is maybe more Christmassy than my previous one, and that is the European film Joyeux Noël, which literally translates from French as Merry Christmas. And it is, I don't remember exactly the countries, but it's a co-production between various countries, French, British, and German. I don't know if you've seen the film.
I have not seen the film, but I know what it is and sort of the incident that it recreates.
Yes. So just to give a very quick summary for our audience, it is a film about the front line in the trenches of World War I, where the French and the British are fighting with the Germans. And one day, right before Christmas, they agreed to a ceasefire just so they can, each of them can celebrate Christmas in peace. And during that day, they kind of managed to mingle and get to know each other. And then after that, they kind of find it very hard to go back to fighting. So they have to figure out what to do, and they're eventually. I mean, it's an old movie, so I'm not too worried about spoiling it. Eventually, they are all relocated by the respective armies to fight in a different part, so they're not afraid to kill the enemy. I mean, it's a very moving film. It stars a few people that even a Western audience might be familiar with. It's Diane Kruger, who was famously in
Inglourious.
Inglourious Basterds by Tarantino. Yeah, it's Daniel Brühl, who is probably the most famous German actor that I know. He was in one of the Avenger films. He was the bad guy. Oh no, he was in not the Avenger, the Civil War film.
Hey, Captain America.
Civil War, yeah, he was the bad guy in that one.
Okay.
Daniel Brühl, but he's I mean, if you Google, he has a recognizable face. I don't know what else he might have been of that English speaking audience would know him from. He was in the Bourne Ultimatum. What else? Yeah, anyway, I mean, he's Civil War, the Bourne Ultimatum. He was also in Inglourious Basterds too. Yeah, he is the young German soldier who they make a movie about. Okay, and there is it's Benno Furman, another kind of famous German actor. My fun fact: my first film of his that I watched was The Ring of the Nibelungs, which was a 2004 German film, an adaptation of the legend of the Ring of the Nibelung, which is where the mythology in which the Lord of the Rings is based.
Okay, was that turned into an opera by Wagner?
Well, that was, yeah. So that's originally it's a legend, is an epic story that has been adapted in multiple times in multiple formats, and one of them was an opera by a 4-part opera by Wagner.
Okay.
Yeah, and was a famous silent film with Siegfried. Siegfried is the main character, and he does play Siegfried in that film. And it's a German film, but it's in English, and it was made purely to capitalize on the success of the Lord of the Rings trilogy that had just come out the year before. So it kind of features the same aesthetic, although even though it was just made for that reason, it's actually a good film, and it's directed by Uli Edel, who's a relatively well-known German director. Okay, so anyway, back to Joyeux Noël. It's a very different, it's a very unusual war film in that it takes place in the front lines, but there's very little fighting in it, and it's just I think, again, whether or not you're religious or you're not religious, there's one thing that sort of the Christmas is in common, is that it's a time of celebration, it's a time of peace, and I feel like this movie does kind of literally captures that spirit where the soldiers literally choose to ceasefire just to honor the holiday, but then they get to know each other and they realize that they just like the fact of them killing themselves does not make much sense, and it is something that truly happened. So it's not just a fabrication for the purpose of the movie. Although, you know, who knows how much the film changed from real life? I don't really know what the true stories were because this happened in multiple parts of the front. It wasn't just one incident. But it's also I find it very interesting that something like you can only do this kind of plot set in World War One. You cannot do it in World War Two because World War One was a much more complicated war rather than World War Two, which was just an evil guy who wanted to take over the world. So I love movies about World War One, and this one is it takes has a special place in there because it's so unique and it's just so depicts such an interesting event that a lot of people are not even aware of.
Yeah, it's counter to the images of like the hell of the trenches.
Exactly, which World War One was indeed hell. It's the first. It was the first major war that used trench warfare. I think
was it the American Civil War? Was like the first modern
the first
war?
one, but in Europe, might have been the first one that did.
It was like the most heavily mechanized war up until that point. Yeah, like that. Again, it's a contrast to the hell of the trenches, and it shows that people have more in common than like war would allow us to think.
Absolutely.
Which is perfect for the Christmas period.
Yeah. I think this is maybe it's not my favorite film in the list, but it's maybe the most Christmas thing on my list. The most faithful, the film that I can mostly and like confidently call a true Christmas film.
Right. So I guess I should go on to my next one, and that's Spirited Away by Hayao Miyazaki.
Okay. So make the case why this is a Christmas film, because I love this film, but I had to back up a little bit and think about it.
So my criteria is that it's a film that I always watch over the Christmas period, but it's also one that allows second chances. Like the main character, Chihiro, is sort of reborn at the end. And I did find some parallels with another film that you watched, which when you mention it later, I'll chime in.
Okay.
But essentially, Spirited Away is like the Oscar-winning film that Studio Ghibli made. And it's about a 10-year-old girl named Chihiro, who, along with her parents, gets stuck in a supernatural onsen. So it's like a bathhouse. They initially think it's a theme park, but it turns out to be like an onsen. And she has to go on a journey of sort of like self-discovery and overcoming fear and sort of negative personality traits to rescue her parents who have been turned into pigs. And along the way, she meets various fantastical creatures. And I'd seen this on its initial UK theatrical release. It was in a packed cinema, and it's like one of those times where a film got a standing ovation, even though the director or none of the cast were present. And it's one I've every chance I've got to watch it on a big screen, I've taken it. So I've watched it quite a few times in the cinema. And also, when it's usually broadcast in the UK during the summer and during the winter, specifically Christmas. And so I have it on, and I own it on DVD. So the main draw for me is, as I mentioned earlier, Chihiro's growth as a character, where you see all of her negative traits at first. She's spoilt. She's a little cowardly, and she's a little selfish, and she has to mature and become much more worldly, and through pushing herself to overcome various challenges. And I think it's one, like its message is timeless. Like that, urging people to sort of grow as individuals, as well as having that wonderful, fantastical element to it.
Yeah, and I think just like I mentioned for your other film, Love and Peace, that the poster looks very Christmas, I would say that the visual aesthetic of this film also has a very I mean, it's somewhat intangible, but it has a very Christmassy vibe. Although you could argue that about a lot of Miyazaki films.
Yeah, it's like the warmth of the scenery and the lanterns, especially during the nighttime, and like the festival atmosphere of the onsen itself does invite sort of comparisons to Christmas, even though it seems to be set like during the like summer.
And it also very explicitly utilizes ideas from the Shinto beliefs of Miyazaki.
Yeah, this onsen that Chihiro gets trapped in is where 8 million spirits from across the lands go to relax, and you get an idea of like how spirits or how natural like parts of the natural landscape can be given spiritual aspect. So Haku, some of the characters she meets end up being like gods of rivers or mountains or the sea and so forth. So if you don't know too much about Shintoism, you can learn about how it's applied to the natural landscape.
Yeah, but I do agree with you that if you, for example, don't know anything about Shintoism, you could perhaps interpret it as loosely like as a Christmas movie, because it does have themes of sacrifice. Like that's a big thing in the film.
Yeah, Chihiro has to be brave enough to risk sacrifice, and like other characters as well. And that's the only reason they grow. And you get really fulfilling character development through seeing people sort of risk it all and come out on top at the end.
Would you say this is your favorite Miyazaki film?
Yeah. Like top 5 Studio Ghibli for me is probably like Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, Whisper of the Heart, and Kiki's Delivery Service, and
which I haven't seen.
That's good. That's
I haven't seen Kiki's.
Like you could be a 50-year-old guy and still get a lot from seeing like the main character Kiki, a teenage girl, sort of challenging life and wrestling with her self-doubt and overcoming it. And it's like all of these films are wonderful. And also Castle Kaguya-Show, which isn't a Ghibli film, but yeah, I think Spirited Away is my favorite.
Okay. Oh, that's great.
So what do you think of it?
Oh, I love it. It's not, I wouldn't say Spirited Away is my top one, but it might be my second or third of Miyazaki's. I generally don't, a lot of people when they talk about Miyazaki's film, they kind of say Studio Ghibli, but I kind of, I don't like to lump him together, because Studio Ghibli is mostly Miyazaki and Takahata, and I find them very, very different from each other. So I'd like to just specifically either consider Miyazaki films or Takahata's films, which I have seen fewer. So I don't want to make a comment on his filmography. But for Miyazaki, I definitely Spirited Away is maybe my second or my third. Top one is kind of between either Nausicaa or Howl's Moving Castle, and I know Howl's Moving Castle is a little bit. It's maybe one of his. Well, I mean, it's well received, but I think has probably drawn the most criticism, and I agree with it. But it's just a guilty pleasure. I just love it so much.
That's another one I saw in the cinema, and yeah, I enjoy it. I wouldn't necessarily say it's top 5 Miyazaki, but it's definitely good.
A lot of people feel like that way. They definitely enjoy it, and they it's not trash, but it's definitely not on the top. A lot of people's top Miyazaki films, but I don't know what it is about it that I like the sort of the fairy tale aesthetic of it. It's maybe because it's maybe one of the most Western of his films compared to everything else that he's done.
Yeah.
The aesthetic
it's like Alsace-Lorraine type of setting.
Yeah, and it is based on a book, right?
Diane Wynne Jones, and I think
something like that.
Yeah, it's initially like a sort of British setting in the novel, but yeah, totally different in the film. But it's still like a rich experience and an entertaining story.
Yes. All right. So So for my next one, and this one is one that I kind of I struggled to make connection, but I did want to include a noir film in this. And when you on the surface, it's very hard to make the case that noir films are appropriate on Christmas, and I would agree with that. But the only reason why I personally associate noir films with Christmas is that I was introduced to a lot of noir films during one Christmas holiday when I was back from school. Like I hadn't seen, like, it was either my first or second year of university. I don't remember exactly. And I was home for Christmas vacation, and I just, I thought, okay, this is finally the time that I'm gonna introduce myself to film noir. So I just lined up a lot of noir films, and I just started watching them in a row. So that's pretty much what I did all that Christmas during that Christmas vacation. So that's why I personally associate noir with Christmas. So I had to pick something appropriate. And I remember this one film that is specifically a noir film about Christmas, and it's called Christmas Holiday. And it's about it's set during World War II, when a soldier, right after he comes out of the academy or something like that, an officer, he goes back, he's traveling to San Francisco to meet his girlfriend, who apparently has married someone else, and he just found out about it. But then due to bad weather, his plane is stuck in New Orleans, and there he befriends a disgraced nightclub singer, sort of the femme fatale character, who tells her the story of how her husband became a murderer. And I rewatched it, and it's not as good. It's not as great as I remember it was, but it's still interesting in many respects. The noir atmosphere is fairly conventional, but it features a non-linear storytelling, which for the time was relatively new and unusual, and I think it does that very well. However, the film in itself is so that's why I'm going to pair this and make it a double feature. And this was just something that I came up with this morning, to make a double feature of Christmas Holiday and Night of the Hunter.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So Night of the Hunter is maybe a little bit more popular. Is the only film that Charles Lofton directed about a con man, or someone who
looking to get his hands on a fortune, isn't he?
A fortune that a family man, a father, buried right before he went to jail, and essentially that's his jail partner who found out about it, and then returns home, tricks the mother into marrying him in hopes of finding out where the treasure is. She doesn't reveal, he kills her, and then he chases the children.
Yeah, that's a really great atmospheric film.
Yes, and it of course, the relationship to Christmas is that it ends with a Christmas celebration in the very end, after the children have escaped from the bad guy, with the character played by Lillian Gish, of all people. And they celebrate Christmas together. But it's also like I mentioned a few times, but it has that visual aesthetic that is just that fairy tale like feeling that is just very, very Christmassy. Yeah. So yeah, I would recommend both of these films. So Christmas Holiday for a more darker and an interesting take on noir that it also happens to be to take place around Christmas, and then wash that out with Night of the Hunter, that is a more fairy tale, more gothic like inspired by the German Expressionism movement, and kind of like end the night with Night of the Hunter.
Okay. So the next film on my list is It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
So
this one is the classic. This one is the traditional Christmas film.
Yeah, it's the one that's put on television all the time, and it was on television earlier today, actually. And it's the James Stewart movie, and it's one that's worth watching every Christmas, just to remind you, like, the most important gift you're given is life.
Because it's the second collaboration between Stewart and Frank Capra.
Yeah, and it's a story that's set over the decades as you see James Stewart's character grow his life in this small town in America, which he's eager to get out. He plays George Bailey, the son of a guy who runs a small bank in the town, which everybody comes to rely on. The bank is constantly under threat from a money man, an industrialist who's always trying to take it over, and so George Bailey ends up, like, despite having dreams of going out into the world, going to college, traveling around different countries, he ends up stuck in his hometown and having to take responsibility for the bank. And due to a series of events, he's brought to the point of suicide. And it gets really, really, really dark. Like, the sense of pressure and hopelessness is very visceral. And this is partly down to a script which has, like, brilliant vignettes where you can understand, like, his place in the town, the opposition he faces from the industrialist, and the high stakes of, like, being in that industry, and also how important his family and friends are to him. And it has a brilliant Christmas message where God intervenes and gives him a glimpse of life without him in the town. And yeah, again, it's like a rebirth moment.
Yeah, and you did mention the darkness, and I did, well, the first time I watched it, which was a few years ago, I was taken aback by how dark this film gets at some point. Of course, eventually everything ends well. Spoiler alert there, but it does, it does go to a place that, for perhaps the most famous Christmas film of all time. And even if you haven't seen this film, you're familiar of its reputation and its status as a Christmas film. It is unexpected at that point.
Yeah, I was rewatching it earlier today because it's on television, and, like, the scene where, like, he's had the worst news possible about his job, and James Stewart is wandering around as his character. He's wandering around distraught, and he goes home, and, like, his interaction with his family is like something like nil by mouth. That British, like, really grim British movie, almost to that level of, like, disharmony, like family horror. And it goes even further with like death and addiction and so forth.
Yeah. Do you know what film would make an excellent double feature to this one that is surprisingly similar but much darker?
Oh, I know. What is it?
The Magnificent Umbersons by Orson Welles.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's one I haven't watched.
Okay, it has I mean, it's a different plot, so I shouldn't say it's the same plot, but it has a lot of plot points that are parallel to the life of the main character in It's a Wonderful Life. It's a rich industrialist who eventually loses all his wealth, and eventually slowly loses his family as well. In a town, essentially the name of the main guy is Amberson. But Orson Welles' ending is a much darker. And so imagine if it's equivalent to imagine It's a Wonderful Life if in the end just Bailey just died alone and poor in a ditch.
Oh dear, that sounds really grim.
However, the after he finished it and after he finished editing it, Welles was sent to Mexico to research a documentary, and that's when the studio took Welles's film away from him and tacked on a happy ending at the end. And it's so obvious that when you watch the film, it's clearly that the ending looks completely different from the rest of the film. It's so obviously tacked on, and I think that caused Welles to just never work with that production company again. I don't remember which one it was, but they essentially took the film away from him. So the film, as it stands, it has a happy ending, but it is obviously tacked on, and scholars have debated for a while what exactly would have been Welles's true ending. He rarely spoke about it later in his life.
This was made before Citizen Kane, right?
No, it was made after Citizen. It was the film that he made right after Citizen Kane, I think.
Okay, so was it like Citizen Kane was an RKO picture?
Yeah, so this might have been, let me check. This might have also been an RKO. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so I'm looking at the Wikipedia. It says Wallace lost control to RKO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, but yeah, not to derail it anymore. I think this would be a great companion piece to It's a Wonderful Life. Although I would recommend watching It's a Wonderful Life after, so you don't end on a sad note.
Yeah, like It's a Wonderful Life. Like the sense of frustration of not being able to get out of a hometown, the sense of despair at everything going wrong, and then the uplift of finding out like no man is an island, as the metaphysical poet John Donne wrote. Like the quote at the end is a timeless one. Yeah. No man is a failure who has friends. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It is a beautiful film, and it's a very. There's a reason why it's such a beloved Christmas film.
Absolutely.
All right. So with my next topic, I'm gonna unfortunately switch gears completely because my next item on the list is John Carpenter's The Thing.
Classic.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think it's even set on Christmas, but it's set on the snowy landscape of Antarctica, which is a relatively Christmassy or Christmas reminding topiary. Or a place. So that's as good of an argument as I can make it, because I don't think this film has much else that is Christmassy about it.
No, it doesn't have any Cold War paranoia about it as either. It's based on the short story Who Goes There, and also
by John W. Campbell.
Yeah, and also the I can't remember the director's name. But also The Thing from Another Planet.
Howard Hawks' The Thing from Another World, which is
Howard
also
Hawks,
which is also based on the same novel.
Yeah. And that one doesn't have too much Cold War paranoia in it either.
I haven't seen the first adaptation. I have to be honest, the one by Howard Hawks.
Yeah, it's a typical sort of B-movie affair. Not bad physical effects. Basically, a guy in makeup.
Yeah, so I that's what I understood, that the original one was a more of a traditional monster film, and John W. Campbell, the author, he was involved in that, but he was somewhat disappointed with the final product. Just to give just a quick word about John W. Campbell, he's mostly known as an editor, and in fact, if you're within the science fiction circles, he's perhaps the most famous editor in the genre of science fiction, because he's single-handedly considered responsible for the golden age of science fiction. And then towards the end of his life, he kind of went crazy, so started believing in the actual things that he was editing in science fiction, like psychics and telekinetics and all that. But as an editor, he was remarkable. But this, he wrote earlier in his career. He was somewhat of an author, and this was probably the only thing of his that remains memorable, and it's still examined today. Who Goes There? And the John Carpenter's Thing I think takes a lot more from the novella or the short story than the 1950s version. So you've said you've seen the 1950s version, right?
Yeah.
And does the monster in that is it psychic, and does it have the ability to transform into other people?
It doesn't. No. It's
okay. So that's in the original novel.
It's a plant-based monster, and there's a lot of speculation about how plants communicate with each other. But it essentially is a humanoid thing which crashes through the set, gets set on fire occasionally.
I see. Yeah, no. So I think the Carpenters definitely went back, at least in the ideas to the original novel, and it kind of, the original novel, the monster does have a physical, an original form, so to speak, that they see in the beginning, but it also has the ability to it can telepathically read the people, the scientists, but it can also transform into any one of them, and there's that whole paranoia and distrust of each other in the novel, which I'm guessing, I'm from what you've said, it's not in the first film, but John Carpenter captures so well. He gets rid of the monster having a physical form. In John Carpenter, it's more of an abstraction, in a sense that I don't think I watched this a few months ago, so I watched quite recently, but I don't remember if the monster ever takes physical form. I don't think it does.
No, it doesn't. It's like every time the first time we see it, it's in the guise of a dog, and then it's like this sort of
goo, yeah,
this shape-shifting biomorphous creature, which you don't get a sense of its original form.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that Campbell did in his original idea, there's original novel, which was in the 30s, was take a Lovecraftian elements, and I think Lovecraft had just died around the time that this novel was published. I'm not sure. He died in the late 30s, and this novella was published in the 30s. I'm not sure about the time there, but definitely Lovecraft's horror was definitely something in the that was very popular among the pulp magazine circles at the time, and Campbell was definitely familiar with that era, and he took those elements and inserted it into a more conventional science fiction alien invasion story. And one thing one problem that a lot of filmmakers have when they try to adapt Lovecraft on screen is that there's, in many cases, the nature of the Lovecraft's cosmic horror is not very tangible, is more of an idea, is more something that the more you understand it, the more it drives you mad. And I think Carpenter, in his adaptation here, doesn't quite go that far, but he definitely does capture that intangibility of the horror that comes from the monster. It's not a thing with claws that can eat you. Is more of like an idea that exists in your mind that makes you distrust everyone around you.
Yeah, it's like just a molecule of this thing can take over another organism. So there's that paranoia that grows between the different people, and the monster plays on this by sort of leaving objects that sort of cause misdirection in terms of like suspicion. And just to go back to Lovecraft, I think like for Campbell and for Carpenter, maybe like they're both taking elements from At the Mountains of Madness, which is also set in the Arctic.
Yes,
and
that was
like
was
creatures...
also a Lovecraft horror element, story with science fiction elements. And I'm pretty sure it was published not in a horror magazine, but in a science fiction magazine.
Yes.
So Campbell was definitely familiar with that story.
Yeah. So, and yeah, it's like this similar setup, which is scientists go out into the bleak wastelands of the Arctic and they discover something that's like older than mankind, tens of thousands of years old. This unknowable intelligence, which just consumes people one by one. Like the thing that John Carpenter's movie has, like the Howard Hawks one is like jingoistic American knockabout action movie. His one is very much paranoia. You can't, like, it's a small group of people. They're trapped together in a wasteland, and there's no way out, and any one of them could be infected. And the film's always good at giving, like, it's never contrived when someone disappears. It's always good at putting seeds of doubt in terms of how people interpret each other's actions. And the physical effects are fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah. And one thing that I'll add to this is that, people that are listening to us may or may not know that I'm somewhat of a science fiction buff. And you often get films that are great films, but the science fiction in it is not that impressive. Or you get films with great science fictional stories, but they're not that great as films. But very rarely you get a film that is both great science fiction but also great cinema. And I think The Thing is among those that checks both of those circles. So that's why I really like this film so much.
Yeah, it's a classic film, and it's one I revisit quite often as well.
Have you seen? I have not seen the. Well, it was initially branded as a remake, and then it was branded as a prequel, the 2011 one. Have you seen it?
The one with Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
I know nothing about it. Sorry, I just know it came out in 2011.
I watched it a few years after it came out, and I was thoroughly underwhelmed. I went in with an open mind because yes, it's another movie. The original will always still be there, and I wanted. I was interested in seeing sort of an expanded universe where you get what happened with the original scientists who found the alien, and like the special effects were mostly CG and they weren't that impressive. It was essentially a retread of John Carpenter's story. None of the characters were that interesting. I don't think I'd ever watch it again. It's okay. It's not terrible, but I wouldn't watch it again. Maybe if you're a completionist, you would like watch it.
Yeah, and the reason I haven't watched it is just I haven't had the chance. I'm not like you just said. It doesn't really take away from the original. It's just there, and you can easily ignore it. I've never held the view that a remake or a sequel or anything diminishes the original in any way. It's just I'm someone who has no problem ignoring something that they don't like.
Yeah. I honestly don't get the furore that happens whenever a remake is announced. It's just like, well, the original still exists, so
yeah. I mean, I'll happily bash it if I write a review about it, but I don't care that it is there.
Yeah, like just the thought of a remake sets people off, but whatever.
Yeah, although, and I do say that, just from what you mentioned, just to give my opinion on it from your brief description, the expansion of the universe, I mean, it's great in some instances, but it seems to me that it would diminish the Lovecraftian nature of the story, because part of the appeal is that we don't really know anything about this monster. We just the thread comes partly from the unknowability, and I'm not sure what a better word for that is, but something along those lines.
Yeah, the mysterious nature. When someone explains, it's like when you reveal like the monster in a horror movie. Sometimes it's a complete flop. Yeah. And that's a lot of the criticism that Ridley Scott has been getting for like his prequels to the Alien movie. Like the sense of mystery, like finding a crashed spaceship in the Arctic, which is like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years old, is like fantastic, and you can utilize it in any way. Yeah. And yeah.
Although, I mean, in fairness to Ridley Scott, I mean, the Alien franchise was already exploited to the max before he even started making the prequels.
I'll go on record as saying I think Prometheus was okay, and I liked the other one he did. Alien
I've only seen
Covenant.
Prometheus. I did not see Alien Covenant. I agree with you. I did not hate Prometheus. I thought, especially Michael Fassbender's character, I thought he was very, very well done.
Oh, then watch Alien Covenant because he's fantastic in that.
Oh yeah, I might check it out. Again, it's not. I have nothing against it. I just haven't gotten around to watching it. All right, so I think we've talked enough about The Thing. So what's your next item on the list?
So I want to go back to 1950. This is probably one of Akira Kurosawa's best films, in my opinion. Although Scandal, and
it's another one that I have not seen.
Okay. Yeah, it's one that not many people actually talk about. Obviously Seven Samurai is probably his most famous one. Throne of Blood or Hidden Fortress.
Well, it came out in 1950, which is when he released I'm so bad with titles. The first movie that made him popular.
I don't know.
The one with the 3 points of view.
Oh, Rashomon.
Yeah. So that came out in 1950, and this one also came out in 1950. So I feel like maybe that's part of the reason why it's been overshadowed.
I mean, perhaps. But even though it came out in 1950, it's still relevant today because it's all about how the media can manipulate people's views.
Okay.
Essentially, it's got Toshiro Mifune as an artist, Ichiro Aoi, and he goes to an onsen, and on the way, he plays a painter. On the way, he's painting a magnificent view, and he encounters a singer, Miyako Saijo, and he offers her a lift to hot springs that they both happen to be staying at, and some journalists from a tabloid magazine take some pictures of them, and the tabloid magazine has a cast story these are sort of like printed on cheap paper, and they're kind of like scandal mags, I guess. And they pop up and disappear. They're only interested in trying to sell as many numbers as possible. And the editor of this magazine is this really ruthless scumbag who creates a false narrative about these two people, the singer and this painter, actually being lovers on a sort of like secret assignation to the hot springs. And so you've got this media battle going on where Toshiro Mifune's character is sort of like trying to clear his name. And he hires a lawyer, Hiruta, played by Takashi Shimura. And over the Christmas period, like they're preparing for a court battle. And Hiruta is played by Takashi Shimura, who's like, he was in Ikiru, the main actor in that.
Yeah.
And you discover that Hiruta, the lawyer, he's a really a weak character because he allows other people to corrupt him, essentially. And but like the one light in his life is his daughter Masako, who has tuberculosis. And like the family, Hiruta's family, and the artist Ichiro Aoi and the singer Miyako Saijo sort of mixed together. And so Hiruta is paid to throw the case by the editor. And meanwhile, you've got this other storyline where the sick daughter Masako she's she's suffering so much, but she's finding some pleasure in life with this singer and the painter, and she's such a pure character that she has the potential to bring out the best in her father, who becomes really rather wretched over the course of the film. And it features some, like, it's a simple story, but it's got some really brilliant dialogue, which gets to the heart of like how people become sort of bitter, twisted deceivers, and the regret these people have in their hearts. And as it comes close to the New Year period, Hiruta is like desperate to make amends, and this case might be how he can do it. And it's a simple drama, but like it hits upon sort of like simple human truths which are just recognizable to anybody who's like experienced life, had regrets, and wants to be better. And like, because it's set over the New Year period, a time when people make resolutions, you get that in the film, like the resolution to be better. And it culminates in a court. It culminates in a moment in court where he's given that opportunity.
Yeah, when it definitely does sound interesting, and does sound very very fascinating set of characters. When I saw it in your list, I tried to seek it out because there are not that many Kurosawa films that I haven't seen. Maybe with the exception of his early propaganda films, which are really hard to find. I've seen most of what he's done, early and late work, but this one I couldn't find. It was the only place that I could find it was in the Criterion channel, but I didn't have a subscription to that, and I didn't wanna buy one right now. I might eventually, but my library didn't have it. Nowhere that I could find that I could buy it or I could rent it. It was just it was hard to get, so that's why I didn't. But I was very curious to be able to see it.
So yeah, the first time I saw it was the Criterion collection on DVD. So it's like in my university library. And I was just borrowing all of the Kurosawa films. There's like the complete collection there from what's that propaganda film, The Most Beautifulest Thing, is it? About the women
Kurosawa
working in the
propaganda
factory.
film?
Yeah. Or
I don't remember.
Or like the martial arts movies he was making in the 1930s.
The judo ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the way through to like like his more famous titles like Seven Samurai and Hidden Fortress. And
yeah.
Scandal stood out to me a lot because it's still relevant for contemporary times as well. Like the practices that you see in the media in this film happen to this very day, and in terms of like how they can alter people's perceptions by planting certain ideas. It's also got really great performances from Takashi Shimura, who's like just this guy riven with regret and self-loathing, and Toshiro Mifune, who's gives a good performance as the artist as well.
Yeah, I mean, he always does.
Yeah, yeah, it's a film that takes place over Christmas. There's Christmas trees and presents and Santa hats, and there's Auld Lang Syne as well. A brilliant scene where you get everybody singing it in a bar, and you get like close-ups on various characters like Yakuza and like businessmen and or hostesses, and like they're all just tired, worn-out people. And this is like 5 years after the war. Just before the economic boom, it's like people are struggling and they're looking for like a chance of redemption, and it's like almost palpable in this film.
Yeah, and I think it's a great recommendation because our audience is likely to be familiar with Kurosawa, but maybe not so much with this film. So if you have a subscription to Criterion, at least in the US, check it out. Otherwise, you can probably buy it from the Criterion collection, but I didn't want to buy one of their DVDs, mostly because I try to avoid collecting physical media, like I've mentioned before. But I was also hoping that maybe my library would have it, but I guess it didn't. Neither my university library didn't have it, or my local library didn't have it.
I think one of the things about compiling these lists and doing this podcast has been to actually revisit a lot of my physical media collection. So
yeah,
but yeah,
and I've been trying to get rid of mine, so I don't have that many DVDs.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, I will definitely check it out as soon as I can get my hands on it. Okay, so the next film that I have is another fairy tale sort of film, and this maybe fits more comfortably into the fairy tale genre, and that is Jean-Pierre Jeunet, 1995 or 1996, I'm not sure, a film, The City of Lost Children. And it's a somewhat strange film about a scientist. Well, it features an ensemble cast, but it sort of all revolves around a scientist, or rather a creation of a scientist who is unable to dream and is a scientist himself. So he's been kidnapping children around this strange and mysterious city, hoping to steal their dreams and give himself happiness. And the relationship to Christmas is that it's visual aesthetic, and the whole thing kind of looks like a fairy tale and reminds me a lot of Christmas. But it's also, I do believe it's set around Christmas, that it features images such as Santa Clauses dropping from a chimney and trying to make this guy laugh, and he's unable to, and things like that. And it's a very beautiful story. It is, I think, it's technically is a collaboration between Jean-Pierre Jeunet and what's the other guy's name? Marc something. Marc Caro. And from my understanding is that Jean-Pierre Jeunet mostly did the directing of the actors and all that, and Marc Caro was mostly the graphic designer, sort of was mostly responsible for the visual aesthetic of the piece. And you can sort of see that because they collaborated in a movie before called Delicatessen, which is also a great movie in my opinion. But then they did not, Jean-Pierre Jeunet went on to make Amélie, and you can sort of immediately see the difference in Amélie.
Yeah, that's much more lighter-hearted and like
and
less
it looks different.
Physical effects.
Yeah,
not as dark.
So have you seen The City of Lost Children?
Yes, I have. Yeah, it's one that I remember from my teenage years.
Yeah, it's for me, it's a film that I can't say that I revisit it every year, but I watch it quite frequently, and I don't think is as from a filmmaking point, I don't think it's as good as Delicatessen, but I really like it. I think it's so unique and it's so distinct, and the actings are so, in a sense, over the top, that it really wholeheartedly embraces the fairy tale aesthetic, sort of the fable type aesthetic. It's like the film version of reading like a children's book to your kid as you try to make him fall asleep.
or even a graphic novel, like the way
Absolutely, yeah.
the way that like the camera placement and like the framing of everything, just and like the actual physical effects, the sets, like they have that graphic novel feel to it. And like I use the word unique in reviews. Like these days, it feels like whenever a film does anything slightly different, I use it too much probably. This film is genuinely unique in terms of atmosphere and its look.
And even the story is pretty out there.
Yeah, it's really dark.
At least as far as cinema goes. I'm guessing, you know, people, comic book readers and graphic novel readers are probably maybe have a larger collection of these kind of stories, but for cinema, it is a fairly unique story.
Can't imagine a major studio releasing something like that these days.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, you know, for all the darkness that it is fairly funny too in some cases.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of humor, such as how the fleas travel around different objects, and you see also
the soundtrack is great too.
Yeah, it's Antonio Badalamenti, the guy that did Twin Peaks, isn't it?
Yeah, Angelo Badalamenti.
Yeah, sorry about my pronunciation.
Oh, it's all right. Yeah, I've said this. I always say this to my friend. It's a film that only the French could have done.
It definitely does have that European feel to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. What's next on your list?
So I've got two more. The next one is Battle Royale 2. I initially put that in as a joke, simply because the film is set over Christmas.
I forgot about that when you put it. I still don't remember much about that movie, but I completely forgotten that it had a Christmas setting.
Yeah, and Christmas music as well, and Ricky Takeuchi with like decorations and stuff. Actually, Battle Royale, I would watch it on New Year's Eve, going into New Year's Day, along with a film called The Royal Space Force Wings of Honeymeese, and I think it's something I did as a teenager and occasionally do now, and it's kind of like the message of both films is like to seize the day, so to speak. So they don't like Royal Space Force Wings of Honeymeese takes place the finale takes place over the winter period, I think, and that has more of a festive feel because it's it has all the visual signifiers of Christmas, like lighting and so forth, and snow. Battle Royale doesn't, but like again, its message of like seize the day. It's like something I needed to remind myself, like every time I enter a new year. So I've got one more film after this. So if you'd like to take it away.
All right, so the next one, which is for me is the one before last, is Edward Scissorhands.
Mm-hmm.
And you sort of, I'm realizing now that there's a theme in my choices. Like I've been going for all these like gothic like fairy tale aesthetics in the films that I've chosen for this list. But and sort of Edward Scissorhands, that definitely fits into that category. There's another Tim Burton, the second Tim Burton mentioned in this episode after Nightmare Before Christmas, and it's I do believe it's his first collaboration with Johnny Depp. I don't think they did anything before this. Okay, yeah, and it's about, just to give a very quick plot summary, it's about the unfinished creation of a scientist who died before he could complete this person who left him with scissors and instead of hands, and so of course that makes no sense at all. But again, it fits into that mythical gothic like almost like urban gothic in the sense style of the film that Tim Burton employs. And I do think this is set during Christmas or around Christmas, at least part of it. There's all the ice statues that he does and with the snow and all that. But it also has that very Christmassy feeling about it, and it's there's really, it's an easy film to like, but I also do think that it is probably Tim Burton at his best as a director and as a designer in a sense.
Yeah,
and this is before Johnny Depp became what he became, where he became sort of a caricature of himself. kind of like Tim Burton in a sense, but his acting here is genuinely amazing.
Yeah, his early performances, like What's Eating Gilbert Grape, are really great. And yeah, it does feel like they've both declined.
Although Johnny Depp is an actor, so I guess it is just, he's just in it for the money. Well, not necessarily, but he just can do whatever scripts are coming his way. Okay, so what's your next film?
So my final one is Tokyo Godfathers by Satoshi Kon.
Okay.
Animated at Madhouse Studios. And this is again like a major theme with a lot of the films that I've selected are like rebirth, second chances. And Tokyo Godfathers has that set over the Christmas period, and these three homeless people, Gin, a gambler, Miyuki, a teenage girl who's run away from home, and Hannah, a drag queen. They discover a baby that's been abandoned in a trash pile, and they try to reunite the baby with her mother. And throughout the journey, you discover more about the baby's background, but also about the three homeless people's background as well. And you meet all sorts of characters. You get a real sense of like life in central Tokyo and life as a homeless person as well. And you've got these three fantastic characters and a baby. Like the adventure takes on magical, almost spiritual things, because there's the sense that like there's a god out there looking out for them. And
for the baby especially.
Yeah, for the baby especially. Like the baby, like God's smiling on the baby at all times. And these three characters who've discovered the baby are able to reunite figures from their past and sort of earn a second chance at life. And it culminates like on New Year's Day, like over the Hatsumode period in Japan, where people, like, that's the major holiday at that time of the year, like New Year's, where you go to the shrine, you try to divest yourself of all the sins you've accrued over the year, and you make the promise that you'll like that you'll make a better effort in the new year. And the film just peaks at that moment. And if you've never seen a Satoshi Kon film before, that's a really good entry point. I actually first saw it when I lived in Tokyo in 2016. So it was, it was like a couple of days before I ended. I did my own Hatsumode sort of journey. So it's very atmospheric for me. And the film, even if you've never been to Tokyo, like the atmosphere you will feel that atmosphere as well.
Yeah, but I'm only going to add that, if this is the first Satoshi Kon film that you watch, then you should be strapped in for a surprise when you watch your second Satoshi Kon film, because it will be nothing like this.
This is probably his most normal film, I guess.
Most accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had not seen this film before. I watched it after I saw it on your list, and I was blown away with it. It's of course I try to reserve judgment for a film that I've seen only once, but it might be one of my favorite Japanese films.
Okay. Wow.
I was impressed. I was thoroughly moved and impressed by it. It's not only on how good it is, the story, how well it flows, how it sometimes it even bypasses sort of the conventional norms of writing, where just sometimes things just happen for no reason, and instead of trying to come up with some explanation, the film just goes on with it, and it just moves on to the next thing, and it does that so well. But it's also about how compassionately the homeless characters are treated, how there's a lot of comedy coming out of them, but it's never at their expense.
Absolutely. This film is told from multiple perspectives, and you get a lot of context for these perspectives, and the character arcs are really great.
Yeah, and with the exception of that one cab driver that is just there, that is just called twice by the one character, no character is two-dimensional in this film. Like almost every character that has a speaking role that appears on screen, no matter how little, we do get enough of a glimpse of them just to make them feel real and if not interesting, then definitely complex people.
Yeah, it's a film about like overcoming those first appearances, because like you there are multiple scenes where people, because the three main characters are homeless because they smell bad, they look bad, they're shunned, but we spend so much time with them like they like human beings that we feel empathy for. And like even Yakuza, like there's a obnoxious Yakuza guy, he turns out to be like a likable character for many people in that world.
It reminded me a lot of that film Crash that came out in 2004, 2005. About that it famously won the Oscars that year, and a lot of people were mad because they thought Brokeback Mountain should have won the Best Picture Oscar. And it's a lot about Paul Haggis, yeah, something like that. And a lot of, and it's about, you know, these people in LA that are sort of like meet and sort of understand each other better. But I do think that film is a little bit heavy-handed, and I do think Tokyo Godfathers, of course, came before it, but it also does it better, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so my final entry, and here I had a few options. So I was debating between The Apartment, and then directed by Billy Wilder, and I also had Home Alone because that's a very traditional Christmas film. But I also wanted to include just like, I know we said film, but I did because there's such a great tradition of TV and television series having Christmas specials, and a lot of them are quite good. I wanted to include something from TV, so I'm gonna mention Home Alone and The Apartment as honorable mentions. But for my last entry, I will go with 2 episodes from 2 of my favorite TV shows. I tried really hard to find something from Star Trek in this, but Star Trek doesn't do Christmas specials. So they have a Halloween special, you know, strangely enough. The original series, yeah, they have one Halloween episode with ghosts, but they have no Christmas special. So I had to pick. So I picked 2 episodes from 2 of my favorite TV shows, and one is The One Who Came In for a Cold One from Cheers, and the other one is Seasonal Beatings from Peep Show.
Okay.
And both of those are excellent episodes for 2 excellent series. Cheers is somewhat older and, you know, not as recognizable, but it's one of my favorite series, and it's absolutely worth watching. And the episode, I'm pretty sure it's a first season episode called The One Who Came In for a Cold One, and it's not, I don't think it said it specifically during Christmas, but it's set in around winter in a very cold day in Boston. And it does have like a lot of Christmassy themes about it, and it's about this mysterious guy who comes in from a very cold day in Boston. He goes into the bar. Cheers, for those of you who don't know, is a show about a bar, and pretends to be things that he's not. So first he pretends to be a secret agent, and then he pretends to be like a sports athlete. Then he pretends to be a very rich guy and all that. And you know, and it's all about the interactions of the main character with him and how each of them perceive this guy to be. And it's a very well written episode of TV. And of course, Peep Show is a lot more ridiculous, but it's also hilarious. And it's about Mark's. I'm not gonna summarize what the whole Peep Show is about. But one of the characters is having Christmas and he's inviting his parents, and that is the first time that he does that. He's usually very subdued to his parents, and when his parents finally arrive to his apartment, hilarity ensues.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen either Cheers or Peep Show.
I watched the first season of Peep Show, and I've watched a couple of seasons of Cheers, mostly. Yeah. So I can picture what you're saying.
Okay.
I have not seen those episodes though.
Okay. Well, Peep Show is probably the easiest one because it's more recent and it's also maybe a little bit funnier. Cheers is an 80s sitcom, so it comes with certain conventions that are outdated, but I still think it's a show that was well ahead of its time for the 80s.
And from that, we got Frasier.
Yes, which I enjoy Frasier, but I don't think Frasier is a very funny show, but is more of its time show than I think Cheers was.
Okay.
Nothing against Frasier. I think it's a great show, but I do think that Cheers is a bit more revolutionary, like a little bit more innovative, and I think the writing is just a little bit better in Cheers.
Okay.
And then, of course, Peep Show is just legendary. It's maybe one of the funniest shows ever written. The British are very good with comedies. I don't know what it is about you guys that makes you so funny, but maybe because you just focus on 6 episodes every year, and that just gives you concentrate the talent in a smaller amount of time.
Perhaps. I mean, I wish I had that accessibility to being funny and having, being good at words. Articulate.
So what was that?
Articulate. That's what I was searching for.
Yeah. There's always this perception that the British are better at TV than Americans, and that may very well be true. But I also think that we get only the good British show. There's probably a lot of crappy British shows that we just never get to see.
Oh,
so maybe
yeah.
You guys are not as good as we think you are.
I think that's the case of every culture's sort of exports. They only give out the best. I suppose if you want to see a bog standard British sitcom like Mrs. Brown's Boys, is probably one you should check out.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's on BBC One. It's like for a mainstream audience, like broadly entertaining. I'm not a particular fan. Like, people kind of look down on it, I suppose. Yeah, Mrs. Brown's Boys. But yeah, Cheers. I recognize Cheers as being like a classic, and a sort of trendsetter as well. And the final episode of Cheers actually remains in my memory, like the sadness of like turning off the lights at the bar.
Yeah. It set a lot of trends. It's not the first show to do this, but it was one of the first shows to popularize was the sort of the serialized storytelling in TV shows, and that across the season and across the series, instead of just everything being reset at the end of the episode, which was the norm of sitcoms, and it still is to a certain extent, there's actually a memory of what happened before, and that will determine the next episode. So again, Cheers was not the first to do this, but what was perhaps the first show to popularize this idea and sort of make it more acceptable in television.
Okay.
Yeah, because at the time was the producers had the concern that people will not be tuning into every episode. They'll just they might just be they might be catching a TV like an episode in the middle of the season or something like that, and they don't want to be confused if they've not seen what happened before.
Yeah. I think
so. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, that's a good note to end the show on, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah. So this was our special episode with for our Christmas special that puts the cap on the first season of the show. This was like we said in the beginning, this is probably not going to be as polished as everything else, just firstly because I at least didn't plan a lot of it, and I'm probably not going to put that much effort into editing it as I did in the other shows. So you're probably going to get all the and whatnots that we have, but yeah. So we haven't decided exactly what we're doing for season 2. We'll talk about it. We'll take a break, so there'll be a sort of a longer break between this episode and whenever it is the first episode of season 2 comes out. But we will be back. In the meanwhile, please listen to all the episodes that we released so far. If you haven't, we think we've made some compelling points and we've had some interesting discussions. One thing that we always mention is leave feedback on our website. Feel free to comment or send us an email directly. One thing that I've never mentioned before is if you are using iTunes and you enjoy the show, please leave us a positive review there, because it does help the visibility of the show if someone is searching for podcasts to listen to. Follow us on Twitter and everything. I'll post the links as usual in the description and in the episode post. Is there anything else, Jason, that you'd like to add before we close the show?
No, I'd just like to thank everybody who's taken the time to listen, and to thank you for producing the show.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you for agreeing to be part of it.
That might be my pleasure.
All right. So happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and
Merry Christmas.
yes. And I guess we look forward to returning for season 2 and whatever that will, whatever film discussion that will bring us.
Absolutely. See you in the new year.